Hiring a team member can be challenging. In fact, it is mind-blowingly tough if it's your very first hire. But if you're going to increase the muscle in your organization, hence prompt muscle, you're going to have to hire eventually. And everyone has to get through this barrier of entry as you're growing your business and you're stepping into a new level of life and leadership. And for that matter, an entire new episode of your business. So if you're hiring your first employee or you're hiring your 10th employee, this message is for you, because along the way, I've learned a lot of different things about hiring people as I've been in business for the 10 plus years, hiring many different positions, from executive positions or promoting to executive positions to hiring brand new or middle, top, or bottom level team members. And as I've worked through each of these processes, I found some systems that really help make sure you get a great hire the first time or more often than not, so that you can avoid some of the pitfalls, the failures, and a lot of wasted money and lost sleep. So as we get started, I want to talk about this from a CEO's perspective this morning, because my name is Jason Ellinger. I'm the CEO of Taika Translations, and I have been doing this hiring and sometimes firing for the past 15 years. And I've learned a lot of lessons along the way, and I think that you can find a lot of value in those as you listen to the words that I'm going to talk about. So if you want to hire well, you have to acknowledge one thing, first and foremost, especially if you have never hired anyone before. It's going to be a very fearful process. And if you don't have some level of fear around this issue, I'm not saying that you should be painstakingly paralyzed by fear, but I think that there should be some element of respect as you look at the issue of hiring or firing. If you don't have some kind of tinge of something going on inside you, like, I don't know if I can do this, then it's likely that you're probably not ready and you're not taking it seriously enough. So I don't want to create fear in you, but if you have no fear or no feelings around it, then you're not taking it seriously enough, because you don't realize the implications of this hire on your business, how it actually really powerfully impacts everything that you do and everything in your life as you go into making this next hire. Okay, so the first thing I want to address in this video, which is you need to know when to hire. You need to know when you should hire. And so just real quick off the bat, first and foremost, when you should hire is when you're working, your schedule is completely booked from beginning to end for your business, and you're working extra hours, probably 2 to 4 extra hours per day sometimes. That's how it's going to look. Now, if you've been in business for longer and you have actually more team members, then that doesn't apply. But I'm talking about if you're just starting out and you're hiring your very first hire or two, you're probably going to have at that point been working 10, 12 hours per day, and you've got enough revenue coming in to cover your salary plus a little more, plus somebody else who can come and help you. And you have to know that so that you can start the hiring process. If you get the cart ahead of the horse in this scenario, you're going to sink yourself because you hired too early instead of doing the required work to make sure that you could float this next hire as you go into this next cycle of your business. And believe me, if you're just going through a tough couple months because you had an influx of sales, or this is just normal for you, and you know in 3 or 4 months that those sales are going to taper off, then you probably want to hold back on hiring and just work through this next few months period. Get to that quiet period so that you can actually really assess the situation and figure out a pattern for growth for your company. So as we start talking about these steps, let's dig into the overview this morning so that you at least have something to start with and be able to take with you moving forwards. Now, the very first thing I do, and people who watch my channel know that I'm a person of faith. I'm a Christian. And so when I do anything in any area of my life that has any impact whatsoever, I pray about it. And so my very first step, my highest recommendation for your very first step, is to pray, to ask God to keep the crazy people away and keep the turkeys out of your way and out of your interview process, and to send you the people that you want to work, that He wants to work with you on the mission that you have in your business. And that's a very important process. And when I talked about in the webinar 2 weeks ago about how to leverage the strengths of your team, I talked a lot about mission, vision, and creating all of those mechanisms and those very, very important pieces of your business alignment process going forward. So in this video, I'm not going to deal with that part. I'm simply going to talk about specifically things related to hiring. But those do bleed over into this process So it's important to know that they're a part of it, the mission, vision, values, and so on. The very first step is to start with prayer. And if you're not a person of faith, then I would at least say take at least an hour to think about the person you want to work with, the person you want to hire, the values that you think that they should have in order to be able to coexist with you in a process over time. Because just thinking that you can hire people with drastically different values than you and think they're going to come in and to rock your company with you like you would is a falsehood. You might, but why bother when there are amazing people out there that believe very similar to you that will help you carry this business forwards? That makes no sense. But there's this kind of professional facade out there that says, well, if you have vastly different value systems, you can work together if you're professional enough. Yeah, you might, but why? So you want to think about the very first thing is, like for me, I pray about this and ask God to guide me and literally ask the Spirit of God to guide me to who He wants me to work with me. And if you're not doing that, then take a look at the values that you have. At least write them down on paper. These are things I value. These are things I don't value. I value people who come to work on time and work hard and have integrity and don't steal from me. Like this will eliminate a whole lot of people that you're looking at in the hiring process as you start. If you just write down a few of the values that you're looking for as you're starting your journey, and then what kind of person fits the position well? That's kind of in the prayer section of this, the very first step. Step number 1, do that, and you will eliminate a lot of fog going forwards, and really eliminate a lot of people who don't belong working with you. And that's the whole point of the process. You want to try to eliminate as many people from the interview process as possible that don't fit before you hire them, because you will be eliminating them after you hire them if you don't hire the right person. And the whole point is to try to avoid that as best as we possibly can. So you can save your money, save your time, save your effort and training, frustration, and the list just like it's infinite. So just believe me on this one. You want to make the best hire you can up front, first and foremost, if you possibly can. And if you follow these steps, you will be able to do that. All right, the second step is to write the job description. You must know what you want this person to do. I know it sounds so strange, but so many people, especially entrepreneurs starting out their business journey, they're like, my hair's on fire. I just need help. I need somebody in here to do something. And I just can't work another 18-hour day. And you're like, yeah, you can't. I'm like, yeah, you can't work another 18-hour day, but until you can figure out what this person needs to do, you're going to have to be doing that. So you might as well get this down, figure it out, make that sacrifice in advance, so that when you bring this person on, they know what winning looks like. And basically, that's simply you write a question at the top of the page. What does winning look like for the work that I need? Okay, these are the tasks I need. These are the outcomes that I need. And talk through that. That's step 2. Step 3, decide on pay. Believe it or not, people say, well, I don't know what I'm going to pay this person. I just need some help. Look, you need to decide how much you're going to pay this person. And you need to decide how much you are able to pay this person. And if what you're able to pay is what the market rate is for that thing that you need in that area. So there's a whole lot of factors that go into this, but you have to decide what you're going to pay this person and know what you're going to pay this person. Because if you get halfway through the process, all of this stuff, and you're like, oh my gosh, this is way more expensive than I thought, I can't afford it. You just wasted a ton of time. You added work to work that you were already doing that you couldn't get done, which is a huge waste of time. So don't do that. Decide in advance what you're going to pay, where this person needs to work, so that you can make sure that you can afford them. And it sounds simple, but it's very important. You decide in advance. This is before we even take any steps going out into the process of hiring. This is step 1, prayer. Step 2, write down the job description and what you want them to do very clearly and what the outcomes you want them to produce are. Step 3, decide what you're going to pay them. All right. So after we get through these steps, you go to step 4, which is search. And you start searching in your local environment, in your social medias, and in any communities that you're part of. Clear and simple, but that's where you start searching. That's your first and best place that you will be able to find people that are somewhat related to your value systems that are likely to be able to help you. Because most of the time, good people hang around good people. And so if you're hanging around great people, then that means there's likely some people in that community that would like to work with you because you're a great person, they're a great person, and they're in your community and you're kind of like-minded, and so you can help each other do something else. All right. So after you do this part and you find 5 candidates, I recommend at least 3. You check their references. So step 5 would be go through and check all the references. Make sure that you have some kind of a resume or CV, and then check their reference. If they've listed somebody on there for you to follow up with, just call them and say, hey, did this guy work there? I'm like, yeah, he worked here. Some people will give you references, some people will not. There's a lot of legal stuff around this thing. Like if people give you bad references and they weren't hired, like somebody could sue somebody for that. So just be careful with those. Anyways, if you're checking the reference, you call in and say, hey, did so-and-so work here? Is this legit? And you would be surprised how many people don't even do that step because they're too busy and they're just like, okay, I know people well enough. I'm just going to figure this out. And they just don't even check the references. But you should definitely check those and review what's on that sheet, because it's just going to give you, when I say sheet, I mean the resume, the CV, because it's going to give you some talking points to be able to just initiate a conversation. Now, thing I want you to remember is in this process, you're actually building a relationship with this person. And the challenging part of hiring people is you have to find out if you're able to build and sustain a relationship with this person over time. Because anyways, in business, you're going to have a relationship of some kind over a long period of time for the foreseeable future until there's a termination or the business ends or you sell. So you've got to figure out if you actually enjoy this person and if you can build a relationship with them on the professional level. And so you're walking through this with them and you're interviewing these people. And if you just don't like them, that is grounds enough to not hire them. And so I would definitely recommend, if you don't like them, as you're going through the first or second interview, don't hire them. And by the way, interviews, the minimum amount of interviews, the absolute minimum. This is like, if I know somebody really well, if I have met them before and somebody else from their life works in my company already, and I'm having an interview with this person, I will still have multiple interviews with this person, minimum of 5 interviews with a single candidate before hiring. And that's very, very important to remember. So many people, they have 2 or 3 interviews with somebody, with a single candidate, and then they make a hiring decision. And that's the worst thing you could possibly do, because you don't know anything about this person at this point. Everybody for 3 or 4 interviews can posture really nicely. They can look amazing for a few interviews, but you start to get into 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 interviews, then you already start to get into a much more serious zone where you can really find out about the person. And of course, the better the person is at talking and displaying their skills and characteristics, the more you have to read between the lines, because you have to know this person well enough to understand if their values meet your values and they're actually going to be able to do the work. So this is the process of working through understanding that. Just know that 1 or 2 interviews, if that's all you've had, it is not enough, and you will fail if you keep the process of just doing 1 or 2 interviews very, very long. You'll have team members that just show up late, that don't care about the values for your organization. And like Dave Ramsey says, employees, they show up late and they steal while they're there, but we want team members. We want actual team members. And this will help you to hire actual team members instead of employees who show up late and steal while they're there, like Dave Ramsey. All right. Now you move to the actual hire. You make the offer. You've got the job description. You have some very specific pieces of information. So as you're going through the interview process, you're going to get the budget from the team member, prospective team member. You're going to get a personality evaluation. You're going to get some other questionnaires from the team member as you go through the interview process, and you're going to be discussing those in and throughout these interviews and coming back and forth through those interviews. As we get through all of that, we're going to make the offer. So as we get through that, we're going to make the offer. We're going to say, all right, this is how much you get paid. This is the work that you need to do. We've had all these other discussions and interviews, and now here's my offer. And do you accept? And that's basically a 1 meeting thing. And you have the accepting thing. By the way, there's a spousal interview in the interview process. Don't forget that. That's part of the step. The interview section is much larger. That's why I'm not talking about it so much in this video, just because there's so much to unpack there. All right. So that's also in the interview part. But anyways, you make the offer, they accept the offer. Hooray, confetti, and everybody's happy, right? So we take the new hire, and now we start the onboarding process. So you actually have to have an onboarding process. What do you do in that process? And this is all part of hiring. Yes, that's why it's so much freaking work. So hiring is a ton of work. That's why I'm talking about it in this video. And so many people get it wrong because they don't think it's so much work and they realize it's a ton of work and they're like, oh my gosh, I need help. So that's probably why you're watching this video. So, all right, now we're going to do the onboarding process. So what is in the onboarding process? So you do the onboarding process. And as you go through the onboarding process, you help them understand what books they need to read, what the values of your company are, what the vision of your company is, and what the future looks like for their position, for your organization, and start to build a relationship. And then you help them understand that, look, we have a 90-day probation period. That means you can come in at any time in the 90-day probation period and just say, I quit, and you're gone. You can leave the same day. Fine. That's very helpful for many entrepreneurs to remember that the hire does not happen, fully culminate until that person has been in your business for 90 days and you can see that they're a winner. Because while you're going through the interview process, while you're doing all this upfront work, and while you get through the offer and beyond it, you will not be able to fully understand the person's capacity, their abilities and speed of learning, and their ability to integrate into your team. And there may be just some dark monsters hiding in the closet that they didn't drag out until until they've been working there for a few weeks. And typically, honestly, when I've seen this, in my experience, 45 days that somebody's been working with her, if the monsters all come out of the closet about 45 days. And if once you get past 45 days, you're pretty much golden. If you'll like the chance that you hit 90 days is like 95%. But getting to 45 days after you've brought them into your organization and launched them into the work and started the training and so on and so forth and started paying them and everything, it's like you will get to know them a lot better by that point because of all the meeting rhythms that are happening and the schedules and the life conflicts and all of those things. Those things will all come out after those first few weeks of work. And then you'll be able to understand, okay, is this person a home run or is it not going to work out? And most of the time you're going to start to see it around 45 days. And then that gives you that very critical moment when you're like, okay, let's cut ties. This isn't working. Or like, man, you're doing a freaking awesome job. I can't believe you bring so much more to the table. This is so cool. And then you get to launch, get all the way to 90 days and off into the future you run with a new great team member and you guys are just rocking it together. And so that's a part of this journey. But the whole process from prayer to finishing the 90-day probation period, that whole thing is the hiring process. And if you can get through that really, really well and efficiently and with a very high rate of success, eliminate most of your hires before you hit the 90-day period, you'll be so much better off in your business and you'll run a much tighter ship and be so much more fulfilled with the people that you actually have working there because they're going to bring the muscle. They're going to bring the muscle to your company. And if you hire great muscle, it's going to increase itself over time. But if you don't do great on your hires and you miss out and you skip the steps and you're just in a hurry and you can't do all of the things in order like they're supposed to be, you will have so much more frustration with your business and with your team. And that's not fair to you, and it's not fair to the marketplace. It's not fair to your business, and it's not fair to the rest of your team because they're having to work with all these people that you're hiring and you're having to work with them, and you ought to be working in a place that you love. So if that's what you're trying to create, then don't skip the steps, work really hard on them and take it from beginning to end, and you will be thankful that you did. If this content was at all helpful, please like and subscribe and share it with somebody in your life who could need it. Maybe a single entrepreneur out there, or maybe a small business owner out there that that could use this content and maybe learn some more about, and maybe it will help them to learn a little bit more about hiring and make their lives a little bit easier in this area of the hiring great team members.